Good morning. Welcome to the CoreNet Café. Grab your cup of coffee and join us for a conversation with Jeff Lamb, President and COO of Vari, and our newest platinum sponsor for the Mid-Atlantic chapter. My name is Katie Redmond. I'm your chapter treasurer, and I'm a senior director with JLL's Integrated Portfolio Services. We're so excited to hear the Vari story firsthand and have this chance to introduce you to one of the more inspiring leaders in our industry, Jeff Lamb. We love this virtual format because it allows us to really cross borders. So Jeff is speaking to us from Texas, and he'll tell you more about that. But what I know about Jeff is he's been in corporate leadership for more than 38 years. He brings really broad experience. So I'm really excited for you to have the chance to get to know him and hear the Vari story. A little fun trivia, we have Roger Staubach in common. So when he talks about his people first approach, that's something I really understand. That was born working for Roger Staubach and the team that's now part of my group at JLL. Jeff is joining us. As I said, he's in Texas. He's the president, CEO of Vari. Many of you will know the flagship VariDesk line, but if you've been following the news on the relaunch, Jeff is going to walk you through how this fast-growing company has really grown in the past few years and how they've rebranded themselves as Vari. So with that, I'd like to welcome Jeff.
Good morning, Katie. Great to see you, and thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here this morning.
Jeff, it's great to have you. Let's start with Vari. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of the company?
Absolutely. We love our story, our history. It really began with the cardboard box. And so one of our co-founders, Dan, had a issue with his back. And so he got a cardboard box and he put his laptop computer on it. And he was working standing up because it felt better. And he had hired Jason McCann as the president of his company. And they had bought a bunch of different standing desks, and they weren't real happy with how long they took to assemble or the cost, and they felt like they had an idea for a new product. And so they called in the designer, David Patton, who's still with us, our chief designer, and sketched it out. David built it in his garage, and they were off and running. We were fortunate in that as the first desk came out, the VariDesk, the Mayo Clinic had just published an article that sitting is the new smoking. That was about 8 years ago, and of course we were off to the races. Fastest growing company in Dallas-Fort Worth, led them to become Ernst & Young's national award winners. But as we got into the office furniture business and people started asking about other products, do you have an anti-fatigue mat, or do you have an electric desk? This innovation company realized that the furniture industry was also ripe for disruption. Being able to go direct to consumers. And so they really came up with the idea to say, look, we've got a shot to build a company of our dreams, a company that would go direct to consumers, that would have the culture of a Southwest Airlines or Zappos customer experience, that everyday value like a Walmart, and started off to take a run in building that company. And so we began to launch into a full line of flexible workspace solutions with our electric desk in March of 2018, and followed it up with the quick flex walls that you can see behind me, that are toolless and demountable and easy to assemble and reconfigure. So today we are installing our full line of office furniture, probably 5 or 6 companies a day. So we're averaging well over 100 a month of installs. Continuing to sell our legacy products. Over 3 million of them have sold over time, and we're still continuing to do great business there at Vari.com. But really the future for us in terms of our engine was around the flexible workspace of the future. And so we knew that we were known as a VariDesk company, but we're more than just a desk now. So the team rebranded to Vari earlier this year, and that's been going fantastic. So, and we also knew that in addition to wanting your inside of your office finished out, as people would walk through and tour our headquarters here in Coppell, Texas, they loved the finish out. They loved the coffee bar in the break area, and the way that we configured for collaboration, our halo lights that plug into the ceiling, and they kept asking us if we would do the entire finish out, not just the furniture. And that led us to our newest venture, which is we call VeriSpace.
Wow, that's great. That's really a great disruptor in the market and really nicely timed. VeriSpace, can you tell me, I want to get into a little bit about your concepts on employee experience and that people first model. Before we do, can you tell me a little bit about that flagship VeriSpace project that you got? I believe it's in Texas, right?
Yes, yeah, we actually have 2 VeriSpace locations. And it's quite fascinating. Our co-founders had been involved in owning office space, commercial real estate in the past, and there was a little bit of frustration when you had turnover of tenants, how long it took to repurpose the space, to do the demo and the TI, and the cost involved. And one of our strategic anchors is to find a better way. Again, we were born out of innovation. Figure out a way to take a desk fully assembled out of a box and go up down on your desk. And so they had innovation. I mentioned our halo light system as an example. So why not plug in your electric lights, your light fixtures into the ceiling like you would your garage door opener? That way, if you needed to move it, you wouldn't have to use an electrician. You could just unplug it and move it around. Well, why not plug the lights together, daisy chain them like you would your Christmas lights with LEDs? And we had that experience from our predecessor company on lighting, and we thought that's a better way. You need one receptacle in the ceiling, not 8, if you can connect 8 together. And so we had the opportunity to purchase the former Zales jewelry headquarters at auction, and it's a 400,000 square foot building in a wonderful business market of Las Colinas. And the idea was, can we go in and can we renovate it for less money, but with what we call an evergreen finish? So polishing the concrete floors, putting in a grid system in the ceiling to drop power and hang our light fixtures and run data, use our QuickFlex walls to create the conference rooms and private offices, our workstations, and then really go into space as a service. So we wanted to offer a full line of amenities and hospitality. So we have our great community team, our community manager and culture ambassador is kind of a liaison between our property management companies and our tenants. And we offer things like reconfiguration. So you get into your space and it's not quite right. We'll come for free and reconfigure your office space so it works better for you. And
that's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the key element to it though was to really change the dynamic of the 10-year lease. So we certainly would do a 10-year lease, but by making it an evergreen finish where we could literally take one tenant and replace them with a new tenant within 30 days without even pulling a permit, we could offer shorter term leases. So we began offering short-term leases that if you want a 3-year, we'll do a 3-year. And we leased the building 90% leased before we finished the initial construction.
So that could work for swing space. There's so many different applications that you could do with that flexibility. That is, I know our audience is going to find that really interesting, very exciting. And when we talk about that, it's a great pivot to this, question of employee experience, and what you're offering is really people forward. So I did learn as I got to know you that you've got 12 years or so working for some of the best known customer service focused, employee experience focused companies, American companies, Southwest Airlines, et cetera. So can you tell us, in your role, President, COO, what makes a people first organization, both for your very employees and also for your customers?
Okay, thank you for that question. Yes, to me, and again, I have to give credit to our friend and mentor, Roger Staubach. He would tell me, Jeff, take care of your people and the financial results will follow. And I'd always admired the happy people make happy customers, make happy shareholder model at Southwest Airlines. And I'm really convinced, and I believe can show people that that is the right business model. That's not just the right thing to do for people and for your customers, but it's the right business model. If you bet on your people, they will come through in times when maybe others might say, well, you've got to put up with that customer because we need the revenue. You know, it's hard to make the customer first and the employee first and the owner first. There are going to be ties. And when you bet on your employees and you back your employees, they will come through for you time and time again. And so I think the genesis for Jason and Dan's company of dreams here at Vari was to have a people-centric, a people-first mindset. And that's really why I came. And it's what that means is that when you consider everything, are you considering your people first? I mentioned finding a better way is one of our strategic anchors. The other two are to simplify everything. Again, a little like Walmart or Southwest Airlines, and let's keep the business simple. But the third is to elevate culture and to elevate people. And so that's really what we're about. We're more about elevating culture and people than we are about selling a desk. And I think the experience for your employees will translate into the experience for your customers. Yeah, so you could even refer to them as internal and external customers if you like. And so I think when we show love to our employees, they show love to their customers and to what we call fans. And it's really pretty simple. I mean, it's not complicated. People would ask me a lot, similar to your question, about like how do you train people to deliver that kind of customer experience and be so kind? And I said, well, you know, have you ever tried hiring kind people? You know, it's hard to train kindness. Your listeners may have picked up a little bit of a Texas accent, and in Texas we like to say what comes up in the bucket is usually what's down in the well. Meaning if you have you know, if clean water comes up, it's probably clean water down there. Yeah. And we try to do that in terms of people and that we attract in our talent, is that if they're kind in here, if they're a kind person, eventually that's going to come out. If they're not a kind person, if they don't enjoy dealing with other people and customers, eventually that's going to come out as well. So I think the key to a people first strategy is really being able to attract and retain the kind of people that will care for others and are others oriented.
That's great, Jeff. That is, those are, you know, words to live by, and I know a lot in our audience will enjoy hearing your perspective on that. And speaking of that, we have lots of business leaders who are listening to us today and who will listen to the recording in the future. So now for the crystal ball. So we're coming into an economic downturn. Many would say that we're in it already, fast, and a lot of companies looking to reposition. One thing I found really interesting, also getting to know you, is you've had oversight for more than a dozen mergers and acquisitions. So can you share your thoughts from the corporate leadership C-suite on how companies can stay nimble, how they can stay profitable and people focused in times of change? Any lessons that you've learned?
Oh, a million lessons. You know, I think and there's been so much wonderful thought leadership on this topic due to the current economic situation and that we're in. You know, I think the key it continues to be around communication. I mean, I think you cannot over communicate. And I think if most of your listeners really reflected back on challenges that they've had and what they could have done better, there's almost always a takeaway on communication. Was it clear? Did you under communicate? Did you use the wrong vehicle for communication? And so I think everyone really understands that when you have rapid change in any, whether it's an acquisition or economic crisis, one of the keys is to be authentic and to communicate frequently with that authenticity. And so I think that's kind of foundational to all of it. But really the key for rapid change, which is the economic world we live in today and had lived in over the last few years, as companies grow, they ebb and flow, they're more agile, and this notion that people work in a cube 8 hours a day by themselves or in an office with the door shut. That's not the way to deploy rapid change. And I think that is really what we see with our tenants and with our customers, is they're looking for a partner that can come and help create a place that people want to come to work, so that their real estate becomes an asset for attracting and retaining people to be able to compete with the competition. Go ahead.
I was going to say, again, great lessons. I mean, this is, it's so valuable to have the perspective of someone who's in the C-suite, who has visibility into all aspects of the company. The lens that you bring is really interesting.
Thanks. Well, I mean, I think there's, most of what I've learned over the years has been from other people, other people's wisdom. I love Teddy Roosevelt's quote about, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And you can hire a lot of smart people and you can have a great strategy, but if people don't know that you care about them, then they're not going to really care what you know. And I think I can't remember who said culture you eat strategy for breakfast, but there's a reason that's a saying, is that most organizations can come up with the smart things to do. They can come up with strategy and technology and systems. But it's the healthy organization, as Pat Lencioni likes to say, that will outcompete the smart organizations every time. So we try to be both. We try to be healthy and smart.
Healthy and smart. I love it, especially now. And this virtual work environment. So this CoreNet connection, this global connection to CRE leaders around the world, strong as ever. So can you share your experience with CoreNet and a little bit about why sponsorship is so important to Vari?
Well, as you've heard me describe kind of our businesses, today we've got a fast-growing flexible workspace solutions business that is installing in over 1,000 installations in companies all over the United States today. VeriSpace now has 2 locations. We've got 2 large, 400,000 square foot properties that we're providing flexible, fully furnished space as a service to tenants on a short-term basis. And we realized as those 2 growth engines, that we needed a wonderful partner that could help us learn and grow from each other. And CoreNet was really that solution. That's why we chose to expand our partnership, and that's why we love you guys so much.
Oh, thank you. No, that's great to hear, and it's great to hear firsthand. So we're saving a few minutes for Q&A, interactive Q&A with the audience, and we'll hold that in just a bit. But before we do, we'd like to get to know you a little bit better. So can you tell us more about yourself out of the office?
Well, the hat I wear most often out of the office today is that of Papa Jeff. I've got 4 grandkids, and we're very blessed. Our 3 daughters all married and moved back within half a mile of our house.
Wow.
I don't tell that to many other grandparents, because I know it's a blessing to have our family so close. They love each other and are best friends, and so we get to see them quite often. My real passion outside of the office is with the homeless and the hungry. I've been working in a ministry in South Dallas for the last 25 years, and that kind of evolved into gardening. And so I started a community garden about 8 years ago, and I got hooked. My wife Katie called herself a garden widow. She'd wonder where I'd been all day, and she'd come here, let me smell you. You smell like mulch. Have you been out in the garden again? And so I now actually have a little piece of land that we have a nice garden on, and we raise that produce and we take it down to South Dallas to share the fresh vegetables and fruit with the people in South Dallas.
Well, you know what? I think we're all lucky to have you. So that's a wonderful peek into Jeff Lamb outside of the office. And I've got one last question, and then we're going to open it up for questions from the audience. So the worst, you told us a lot about these great job experience. Tell us about the worst job that you've ever had.
Katie, I tell you, there, probably like a lot of people, whoever was hiring when you're young, you kind of take the job, and it helps shape the things that you know about work early on, and I think I started to say easily. I'm not sure it's easy, but it's a pretty clear choice here that I worked while I was in high school at a fertilizer plant. I'm not talking about the chemical fertilizer. I'm talking about the organic cow manure fertilizer plant. And so if you've ever used that on your garden or your yard, there's a process where the manure is dried out and ground up, and it's piled in big piles in a warehouse, and then there's a machine that weighs and measures the manure to 50-pound increments and blows it down into a bag so that you can buy it and take it home. Well, I was the fertilizer bag holder, and so I would stand there. 50 pounds of cow manure were blown down into the bag, and then zip it up and load it on the conveyor belt. That had to be the worst job I ever had.
Okay, that of all of our interviews so far, that is that might be an award winner. Jeff, that was terrific. Thank you. And for everyone in the audience, we're going to open up for questions now. So the way this works, you'll see on your sort of GoToWebinar dashboard there, usually on your bottom right, you'll see an area that has a chat function that you can type in your question. So let's go ahead and open that up. If anyone has questions for Jeff, I'd be happy to share those, and we'll see if we can get through some on the line here. So let's see. And if we don't have questions, I've got another topic that we can go through. So anyone want to add any questions for Jeff? Make sure I have this open. And we have our administrator on the line as well. Emily, if you see anything come through, just let me know. Okay, so far, no questions. I think it might be that we covered so much, right? So we're coming to the end of our time together. We promised that we would end around 30-minute mark. So I hope you've enjoyed today's CoreNet Cafe conversation with Jeff Lamb of Vari. I certainly have. And if you want to learn more about Vari, visit them at www.vari.com, or we have a Mid-Atlantic member and an old friend of mine, Elliot Bellis, who'd be happy to help you. Great team here in the Mid-Atlantic. We're going to have a recording of today's interview that will be available on our chapter website and also on social media, so the chapter LinkedIn page for the CoreNet Mid-Atlantic. Please take a minute to like and share to help us get the word out, and join us every Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, for the CoreNet Cafe. A special thanks to Jeff Lamb and to everyone at Vari for your support, and we really enjoyed our time getting to know you.
Thank you, Ed. I loved it. Great seeing you.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you too. Bye. Bye-bye.